having written the film script, I took it to UFO researchers to get their kind of feedback. And I got good feedback, and that then led me to go into the first Leeds UFO conference, Rendlesham, that he used to run, 3-day conference. And I saw these pictures and I thought, I've got to get involved. But long story short, I then had another dream that said, right, do something about what you know. I knew about police officers, and I also knew and read in several accounts of officers that had seen things in well-known books. So as a result of that, I went to Woodbridge and I said, will you have this idea for a police database, unofficial, where I'll collect serving and retired police officer cases. Would you allow me to write an article in the UFO magazine? And he said yes, because he was all for credibility and credible people. And so in January 2002, I wrote my first article. I've never printed anything anywhere, and he allowed me to do that. It was a big thrill. And from there, 10 years later on, I've now kind of like gone to Washington Press Club, as a big mention by Robert Salas, and he's led me to other parts of the world. If anybody had said to me, now 14, 15 years ago, that you'd be doing this and doing lectures for 90 minutes, 2 hours, and people, hundreds of people, I'd have laughed at them. But this subject has pulled me in a strange kind of way, and I think anybody who is a researcher kind of goes on their own journey of self-discovery, because something draws you in, and if you really get in, it keeps pulling you in. And so I don't believe in religion at all, but I tend to believe in fate as I've got older, because strange things, kind of synchronicities happen, and you think, well, I don't know, maybe this is what I was supposed to do. But that's how I've got here now. 2006 2007 is an important year, and it's important because between 1983 and 1989, prior to joining the police, I served 6 years in the Royal Air Force as a police officer. For 3 of my 6 years, I worked on 2 nuclear bases, RAF Wellington and RAF Warbrook in what was then West Germany. And we did what was called SD814 duties. That was basically walking the wire on a weapons storage area. In England, you call them supplementary storage areas, SSAs. In America, it's a weapons storage area, WSA. Identical layout, and we'll go through that in a lecture, because it will come up as to why the nuclear issue is important. Because at the heart of all of Rendlesham, my conclusion will be that I do believe, as those other speakers have said, and Robert Salas kind of indicated at the end of his lecture, that effectively people up there do not want us to screw up this planet. That's the only conclusion you can draw, because I really do believe they can come at any time. If they wanted to, they could, they don't. And I tend to think that we're a bit like the Galapagos Islands or the Great Barrier Reef, and that we're in this pretty special place with our rich, diverse nature of life, water and fauna, and that's why they come. And they basically surveil us. There is a level of interaction, but I'll never know, because I don't have a need to know. Touching on take wood, there, we don't have a need to know. Unless you're in that intelligence, higher echelons of society, we're never going to know, so we're reliant on the public domain. Okay? And I'm never going to know the real details, because I'm not powerful. But I do think they have an interest in nuclear weapons, and at the heart of the Rendlesham Forest is the nuclear issue. So it is addressed in my lecture. I'm going to start my lecture with this clip here, which is a fantastically detailed picture of gradients until I start painting. Okay, so it looks nothing at the moment. Okay, we might need to turn the lights down a little bit more if we can. But essentially, when I go to play it, alright, in this case became public in October 1983. To my reckoning, that's 29 years ago. How many people have seen documentaries on Rendlesham Forest? Put your hands up. Put your hands down. How many documentaries have you seen where they've been out with night vision at the time Halt was out and the likes of Larry Warren was out in the forest, and they've showed a clip of what's really there at midnight? Put your hands up. Have you seen any clips? Have you? Tell me. When? There is, to my knowledge, there has only ever been one proper clip, and it was a doctored clip by Ian Ridpath. Anybody familiar with Ian Ridpath? He's a well-known skeptic of the Rendlesham case. and he's the basic person who devised the flying lighthouse theory that has haunted this case for the last 29 years. Okay, but amazingly being given, more worryingly, being given great credence by the media. And we'll touch on why we give it great credence, because it doesn't make sense with it. Okay, so in all of those, we've all seen documentaries, but we've never seen a proper clip apart from this one clip where Ian Ridpath tries to say, as opposed to Charles Halt's audio tape, famous audio tape. You all aware of Charles Halt's 80-minute tape?
Yep.
Edited highlights maybe, but certainly, according to Halt, it is a snapshot of live events recorded on a dictaphone. And I can go with that, to be honest. That's what I would do. It's quite feasible that you just do a quick précis for later reference, like a businessman, right, I'll take a meeting and so on and so on. I can believe that that happens, and it's a snapshot of real events as he was out with his team. But the key thing here is that this sequence that I'm about to show you is going to be really evidential, because I've never seen it in a documentary other than Ian Ridpath, who tried to say that the pulse of the lighthouse matched exactly what people were describing on the audio tape, which was ludicrous from the off. He kind of tried to stretch it and make it fit. You know, it's not actually a piece of science. So I kind of thought, well, I'm going to come here, and I'm going to come here a day early, specifically, to go out with some night vision goggles that I've bought over the last year or so. I'll recount it from my friends who bought it. And with a little video recorder, record exactly what Halt would have seen as he emerged from the forest, following the UFO under the canopy of trees, the object that was blinking, dropping molten metal, well, that's how it appeared. And he's followed it and eventually emerges at the side of the farmer's field. Are we aware that there is a farmer's field and it plays a significant part in this story? Who isn't aware of that? Right. So I'm talking to the knowledgeable, shall I say. So I wanted to recreate going out, pitch black, what do you see? Because I stood with Halt by the side of that in daylight on the UFO Hunters documentary. And I wanted to see what it looked like at night, because I'd never done it at night. So this is really all about the lighthouse, and I'm going to take it out of sequence. It's not part of the PowerPoint, and I was going to do it at the end, but I actually think that it probably goes better at the beginning, because let's just deal with the lighthouse, okay? Hopefully if it was stretched and I don't fall over. Right, here we go. I'm going to, because the leads are constrained a little bit, we need to put the lights down, I think, for this. What you're looking at now...
I'm recording the sound of it.
This is me doing a live commentary.
The time is approximately 11:13 in the evening. And myself and my fiancée, Mildy, are actually at the opposite side of Rendlesham Forest and Farmer's Field. It's a pretty perfect evening, clear skies, stars, and what you can see is the infrared from across the farmer's field by the big tree where Halt and his team emerged, where they looked across at the farmers.
The dark areas, the outline of trees, etc. all across the other side of the field. You just see the
trees in the distance, way across the farmer's field. And the reason why I've started off in this position is to show something in specific. So as you can see the tree in the distance, and now we're going to pan right.
See the horizon?
This is the infrared. Now that's not the lighthouse or a UFO, that is a little light that can be picked up by the infrared camera inside the actual farmhouse.
Everybody's in bed.
And now you can see the horizon in the distance. And now I'm going to pan to your right.
6 miles on the
Way
horizon.
up on that horizon, you can actually see the horizon line.
Every 5 seconds.
There you go. Every 5 seconds,
And what does that look like to you?
the lighthouse.
What does it look
And
like?
here's the thing. Halt knew
Every
where the
5 seconds
lighthouse
it does the
was.
same thing.
He'd often took
So even
people
if you were confused the first time you're out in the forest,
off the keep,
and you're going, oh, what's that like?
nest, to the
You watch it for a few
lighthouse,
seconds, you're
to
going to go,
that area
that's the light.
by way of sightseeing. He knew it was there. So he would not have been surprised. And when I stood with him at at this very spot, or approximately 100 metres to my right, by a large tree where they emerged having followed the red glowing UFO. He had approximately a 45-degree angle across the farmer's field towards the farmhouse. And here's the key thing. As I'm just going to scan by now away from the lighthouse, follow the horizon.
I know that's the farmhouse.
So that is light inside the farmhouse. Everybody's in bed, but that's the farmhouse. The UFO that he described to me, stood in this position, was that the UFO was left low to the ground and glowing so brightly that the UFO was casting a red burning reflection, as he described it, almost as if the farmhouse was on fire, to the left side of the farmhouse. Know where that would be. He said it would be close to the farmhouse, approximately the size of the car, approximately 15 feet off the ground, low to the farmer's field, to the left of the farmhouse. And I said to him, Colonel, where in relation to that UFO was the lighthouse? He said, way off, over to the right. And let's pan right, past the farmhouse, and sure enough, on the horizon is the lighthouse. So was it the lighthouse that you saw? No, because I knew where the lighthouse was. But no, the farmer's field. The farmhouse, it was to the left of the farmhouse. So, I've never seen this in any documentary, and I can't think why in 28 years, if people are doing the job properly. But here in the infrared, that is the view that he had in darkness as he emerged, and the UFO would be to the left of this light, which is the farmhouse.
Now, does that not, in that one little clip, does that not show how ludicrous the lighthouse theory was and has been for 29 years?
Yep.
And you really do have to ask the question of why no documentary has ever done what I've done, and I'm an amateur. Now, is it against rocket science to set up a GoPro at midnight? It's not. It should have been done. As a detective, it should have been done when they review the evidence to tell you, the public, about what really happened. And you can only conclude that after 29 years, some people don't want you, the public, to know what's really going on. How can you ever work out any other reason to explain why this hasn't been shown? Okay, let's go into the PowerPoint. So I've kind of taken that out of sequence, but you can see now, hopefully, why I did that. Because I think it was important. So I wasn't going to play it again, but I suddenly thought, no, I think actually this is better to do it now. Does it make sense to show it absolutely clear? How could anybody emerging from that forest after 10 or 15 seconds of looking at that light pulsing could conclude it could be anything other than lighter? So there never was any secret. Okay. Like I said, I look at this subject through evidential eyes. I have to, because that's my police training. I should know what evidence is. So, in a sense, this is an evidential review of the case, and it's done in a slightly different way. And what you have to understand is, you often on telly, you see programs called cold case reviews, and they're done by police officers. Well, ordinarily, they do a cold case review of something that was investigated properly. But unfortunately, with Rendlesham Forest, you could never do that, because there was so much done wrong at the time that you can't actually ever do it properly. So you can do a snapshot based on what has emerged. And we probably only have emerged in 29 years since it became public, 70%. I think we're at 70% of the picture. I'm not sure we'll ever get any really more than that. But what we know is that it's probably the best case in the world. And it happened here. And that's not me exaggerating it. It really is regarded within ufology circles as being that good. And yes, people talk about Roswell. The Americans talk about Roswell, great case. It's a long time ago. And in essence, it's not as good a case as this. A lot of researchers will agree with it. So, this is the scope of my review. I'll review the evidence through my eyes as a detective, put it in its political context at the time when this occurred. I've not mentioned this to anybody, apart from a couple of people last night. There is a potential new source of evidence that could, if verified as I get told off for pronouncing it wrongly, if it gets verified, it would be a significant major breakthrough in the case. But because I can't corroborate the source yet, it remains a bit of an enigma. But my gut feeling, based on some very detailed information passed to me recently, is that it's probably genuine. But at the moment, we have to hold it. So I will pray see that later on. Okay, but it could be a major breakthrough. Alright, I'll talk about the 30th anniversary union in Revelations and one specific aspect of it. And as some of you will know, I've been trying to, I've written a film script that's been endorsed by Colonel Halt, who I've been working with collaboratively for the last 4.5 years, because sooner or later this story is that good it will be made into a Hollywood film, or a British film, but it will be done into a feature film. The question is it Independence Day? And let's just kick ass aliens, or do we really try to tell a genuine story about real people who were basically screwed and nearly swore them? But people are real victims in this case, and it's a real psychological bag of snakes, to be honest. And people have been really messed with, and there is a case here that needs to be seen in a wider context. Now, I'll update you on some recent developments on that. I am a professional writer, I'm a detective, but I've been writing scripts in an amateur capacity for about 12 years now. And with this case, because it's so famous, I think sooner or later it's going to get made, whether I'm involved or not. But there is an update on that. Okay, nature of evidence. Before I talk to you about evidence, I really have to tell you what evidence is, through everybody's eyes. And you call it real evidence. We think it's physical evidence, but it's called real evidence. And that's the gun, the knife, but it can also be the videotape, etc., etc. And then you have what's called documentary evidence. Anything on paper written down. The doctor's slip, in a fraud case, self-prescribing drugs, a fraud case, false accounting. You get the records that says that £20,000 in your back pocket off to your offshore account. That's documentary evidence. But also in amongst that, witness testimony. Because the vast majority of witness testimony is given audibly to me. I go see you, you've been beaten up, I go see you, you give me a statement, you tell me orally, I write it down in a format that's presentable for court. You don't write statements, not that you're not incapable of writing, but it has to be presented in a certain format for court. That's just the way things are. So police officers will get the story in draft, and then when the police officer is happy with the story, and he understands it, he or she understands it, then you write it out, then you read it back to them and say, after that, don't make any changes or anything like that. If you do, you're happy with it, you rush that again. But if you do your job properly, they write it and they sign it. That's your statement. It has to be done in a certain way. So witness testimony, whilst it's oral, it becomes documentary. Because it's the statements that are read out in court, or if you've ever been in court, how many of you have been in court? Tell them one line. How many have given evidence as witnesses in a case in court and stood up in the box? Alright, it's a very nerve-wracking experience. You've probably done it only once or twice. But basically, you go in there, before you go in there, you get a chance to read your statement, you're not allowed to take it in. But when you go in there, you swear on the oath or affirm, and then basically the barristers in front of you, the prosecution and defence, will then take you through. They've got copies of your statement, and they take you through your evidence. And, if they want to cross-examine you, they will do. Okay. This is the nature of witness testimony. Best when corroborated by multiple witnesses. Obviously, if one person says, somebody punched me in the face, it's one-on-one. You might have a physical injuries that back that, that's physical evidence, trace evidence in your face, broken jaw, etc. But if it's one-on-one, harder. But if 4 people in a nightclub who don't know each other all see you get smashed with a glass in the face, that's really good evidence if we get your 4 statements, isn't it? That's corroborated witness testimony. And obviously, so in any kind of UFO case, the best cases are the ones where we've got corroborated testimony. More than one person. Okay. What's even better is if they are independent witnesses. People that don't know each other. If you sat over there, you over there, you over there, you over there, see this gentleman just punch me in the face, not doing what I want you to do. But if you did that, 4 people, I would guess, who don't know each other in 4 points of the room, would all see the same event. And because they don't know each other, they can't actually interact with each other. If somebody from 4 different geographical positions said, yeah, I saw that too, then it's pretty good evidence that something is describing the same incident. So essentially, when we look at UFO incidents, it's just really another name for a police incident. Because if a cat gets stuck up a tree, people bring it in to the police control room, my cat's got stuck up a tree. You just go into a control room, they've got to open up an operational log 66 of today's date. Woman rang in, cat stuck up tree, fire engine call, get cat down, shoot cat, throw the tree. You know, that kind of thing. But in essence, that's exactly what happened. So any UFO incident is really can be dealt with as a police incident. What does it involve? Witnesses. They've seen something that they don't know. And then what do? We're trying to find evidence that supports what the witnesses say. Is there any video? Is there any mobile phone camera footage? Think about it, it's exactly the same sequence. Okay, so the best kind of witnesses are the independent witnesses who don't know each other, but who've seen the same thing. Now, one thing that you will get is, and this is often a police exercise, and many people do like psychology training and things like that, will do this kind of exercise where you'll be shown a quick video clip for 5 or 10 seconds, and then they'll say, right, describe individually, we'll get taken aside and say, right, tell me everything you saw in that 10-second clip. And basically, you could have a man running down the street carrying a television. A burglar running out of the house, running down the street, you see it. Everybody in this room would probably describe the suspect carrying the TV really differently. He was 6 foot, he was 4 foot, he was black, he was white, he was Chinese. It doesn't matter. The vast majority will say, he's a man, and he's carrying a TV, and he's running down the street. People's perceptions of descriptions and faces and things like that will vary wildly. But the key thing is what they're saying. They're all saying it's a man, he's running down the street, he's carrying something around. That's your evidence. Yeah? To support that something has happened. Okay. Uncorroborated witness testimony is still valid in court. The amount of times I deal with a fight and there's no witnesses, and it's one-on-one. Now, I go to the Crown Prosecution Service, I put the evidence in there, the Crown Prosecution Service will make a decision. And they'll sometimes it's one-on-one. Unless there's no physical evidence, i.e. bruising, broken jaw, physical injuries, they won't go for it. Because there's no realistic prospect of conviction. That's what they will say. Okay, let's now focus in. I did just give you that bit of a rundown on what evidence is, because you need to know this when we're looking at an evidential review. You've got to know what evidence is. Okay, one of the biggest factors about Rendlesham Forest for its authenticity as a UFO event is the fact that we didn't know that in the public domain for 3 years. This wasn't on the papers the next day, it should have been, but it wasn't. It was never meant to come out. It was never meant to come out. People will be aware of Halt's Memorandum. Halt's Memorandum was nothing more than as a bit of a trailer, a note to the MOD, because he thought it was a big investigation before. We were all followed in this case. But that's what he thought. So it was a little memo, taster of what went on. And he didn't want to write it. In reality, he didn't want to write it. Why didn't he want to write it? Because he didn't want to sound crazy. Why did he want to sound crazy? Because everybody's crazy who lives in your photos. We're okay. You see what I mean? But that's what we tend to do in the media. And that's the reality. Halt did not want it to come out, and he damn tried to get it withdrawn when it was about to come out. But it did come out in October 1983, we'll touch on that later. But the key thing that should be remembered is that this was not in the public domain. And I'll talk about the work of Brendan Butler and Dot Street, because their work in the days afterwards was incredible. They were picking up stories from people, civilians living near base. They're reporting, but largely forgotten, sadly, by a lot of the media now. You, again, should wonder why that is. They did a great job. Touching again, Larry Warren. Larry Warren is recognised as the key whistleblower. Whatever anybody thinks about Larry Warren's account, doesn't matter. Larry Warren is there right at the start, and we'll talk about that as we go through. So again, he was putting out that something happened. But in the public domain, we did not, the public, en masse, know anything about this case until October 1983, when the news of the world did a big spread, UFOs landing in Suffolk, you know, you've all seen the headline. So this fact alone makes it so authentic. The Halt Memorandum was not supposed to come out. It was written as a military document sent to the Ministry of Defence. A taster report, nothing more. But that report is pure dynamite, because it outlined the fact that there'd been a landing, the physical trace elements had been found to support and corroborate that something or three later had landed in the forest. And then Halt himself, as then a lieutenant colonel, goes on records to say, well, yeah, I saw it too, and at one point, multiple UFOs. It's an incredibly powerful document if you go through it line by line. And for somebody of his rank, Deputy Base Commander of a nuclear facility, will talk about nuclear weapons, and actually not, I worked there, on a similar basis. It's important. The story breaks. That's the headline. And then, so first paragraph, highlights in Penistone Burrows, we'll talk about that in a bit. Second paragraph, about the physical trace evidence, indentation in the ground, matching each other, so equilateral triangle, and that there was nearby tree damage that supported broken branches, as if an object had come from the air and broken through the canopy of the trees to land in a little clearing. As it came down, it broke a few branches off, as you would do. Imagine if we have a hang glider, suddenly has a problem with hang glider, and goes crashing into the forest. What's it going to do as it goes down? Break a few branches before it breaks his leg. It's not good. Yeah? Perfectly logical. Thank you for that. Right. In essence,
That's your package right there. You guys start breaking it.
It's switched on. Sorry, it's switched on.
now if I was a comedian, you'd have a line. Not really sorry. Alright. Nature of incident. In essence, I'm going to break this down evidentially. Okay, so we've got first night, multiple unidentified lights. And it is multiple, because if Penistone and Burrows went one way, they also saw it coming back. And also, Stephens, Bull Stephens, and Simon Bull Stephens, who's there originally at the gate of Burrows, they see it first. 300 metres away. Now, anybody who was out doing that tour of Larry who went to the East Gate yesterday, what you've got to understand is that from that gate, if you were at the gate looking back down towards the road, there were no trees to block your view for 300 metres, 400 metres. So they were looking at open ground to the main road, and then the trees beyond. So they see moving lights, not one light, moving lights above the canopy 300 to 400 metres away, down on above that main road. Remember that when it was an active military base, there were rules and regulations about how close trees can grow to fences and how high trees can grow near to weapon storage areas, etc., etc. So it's a factor. This was a clear area. So, first night, unidentified landed object. Wow. And we've got a document that says that there's a landed object. Second night, less well known, but I'm happy that it's occurred with my investigations and now pretty much nailed on. Unidentified seen object, or going to see an object dropping into the tree from the East Gate again. Reports it, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Level interaction. We'll talk about what that means. It is many people who've had UFO encounters will say that they somehow feel compelled, they somehow have funny feelings, they get a feeling in the stomach, go outside, look at the sky, something there. Sounds ludicrous, doesn't it? It's never happened to me that way. However, I've talked to enough independent people who don't know each other who told me the exact same thing. So I have to think that it's free. See what I mean? Because it's corroborated from independent sources. Third night, multiple unidentified lights in the sky with a level of interaction. The level of interaction we'll talk about when Halt is with his team and the object races towards him, shines the beam down. He's thinking, is this a threat? Is this a communication? That's a communication of some kind. And it's an interaction between the object stopping, showing intelligence, showing the beam down, into their group. It's intelligence. What it was meaning, who knows? But there's an interaction with his group. And certainly there's an interaction between the object, later on one of the objects is seen moving over the base. We move into this controversial area. Did beams go down to the weapon storage area? And I've got a clip of Halt that I took myself personally at the top of the weapon storage area where he confirms that to me, just on camera. And it's in here. Some people will have seen it because I have shown it before. Okay, essentially the first night we have evidence of a landed object, i.e. the depressions. Corroborated testimony of at least 4 officers, Bud Stephens, John Burrows, initially. Now, if you listen to them, what they say is they go through that gate first and go down towards the road. And then they get spooked, especially Stephens. They want to go back, see the sanctuary, they go back. That's when they pick up the phone, Crash in the cave, picks up the phone call, and he